Today, you will learn something about Roman gladiators that you would almost never hear in school, movies, or popular history channels. Not how they fought, not how they died, but how they lived, day after day, through food. And why what they ate tells a far more honest story about ancient Rome than blood in the arena ever could. When modern people imagine gladiators, they imagine strength built on meat, wine, and heroic excess. We see warriors tearing into roasted flesh, fueled by rage and glory. This image is powerful and almost entirely false. The reality of a gladiator's life was quieter, harsher, and far more controlled. Gladiators were not heroes. They were property. In ancient Rome, gladiators were owned by trainers known as lanisti. These men did not see fighters as symbols of honor. They saw them as investments. Training a gladiator took time, money, and discipline. Feeding him correctly was part of protecting that investment. Gladiators lived and trained inside enclosed institutions called ludi. These were not places of freedom. They were tightly regulated environments designed to control the human body as efficiently as possible. Every detail of daily life was monitored: sleep, movement, punishment, medical treatment, and especially food. Well, food was not about pleasure. Food was about management. Most gladiators followed a diet that would shock modern athletes. Instead of high-protein meals rich in meat, they consumed large quantities of grains, legumes, and vegetables. Their primary staples were barley, wheat, lentils, and beans. Ancient Roman writers mocked this diet openly, calling gladiators hordearii, barley eaters. This was not an insult without reason. Barley was cheap, barley was filling, and barley worked. Barley provided slow, steady energy that lasted through long hours of training. Gladiators needed endurance more than speed. They trained relentlessly, often using wooden weapons heavier than real ones. Their bodies needed fuel that would not burn out quickly. Bread was the foundation of nearly every meal. Not soft white bread, but dense dark loaves made from coarsely ground grain. The texture was rough, sometimes gritty, often sour. This bread was heavy in the hand and heavy in the stomach. It was meant to fill, not to please. Bread was eaten plain or dipped into simple broths made from vegetables and herbs. There was no butter, no rich sauces, no luxury. Eating was functional. Legumes were just as important. Lentils and beans were boiled into thick stews that formed the core of many meals. These stews were repetitive, bland, and filling. They provided plant-based protein and sustained muscle over time. Meat was rare. Contrary to popular belief, gladiators did not eat meat daily. Meat was expensive, and gladiators were numerous. Feeding dozens or hundreds of fighters rich diets would have been wasteful. When meat appeared, it was usually pork or fish, boiled rather than roasted, served in modest portions. This was not a feast. It was maintenance. This plant-heavy diet had another purpose that modern audiences rarely consider: body fat. Gladiators were encouraged to maintain a layer of fat beneath their skin. This fat acted as protection during combat. When a blade cut into the body, it would cause dramatic bleeding, something the audience loved. But it was less likely to damage muscles or vital organs. From a business perspective, this was perfect. A wounded gladiator could be treated. A dead one was a loss. Doctors attached to the ludi treated gladiators with surprising care. Medical texts describe wound treatments, bone setting, and recovery diets. Food played a role in healing. Soft foods, broths, and easily digestible meals were given to injured fighters. Vegetables were constant. Cabbage, leeks, onions, and leafy greens appeared regularly. Romans believed cabbage had medicinal properties. It was thought to cleanse the body and help wounds heal. Whether true or not, cabbage remained a staple. Fruit was seasonal. Apples, grapes, and figs were common when available. Dried figs were especially valuable. Cheap, long-lasting, and rich in energy. Gladiators often ate them between training sessions. Wine was part of daily life, but not as people imagine. Gladiators drank wine diluted heavily with water. Pure wine was reserved for celebrations or the elite. Most fighters drank weak or sour wine, similar to what Roman soldiers consumed. Alcohol dulled pain and relaxed the body, but intake was controlled. Too much wine made fighters weak. Discipline mattered. One of the strangest elements of the gladiator diet was ash. Ancient sources describe gladiators drinking water mixed with plant ash. This mixture was rich in calcium and minerals. It strengthened bones and sped recovery after fractures. In a world without supplements, this was early sports nutrition. The taste was unpleasant, the texture gritty. But effectiveness mattered more than comfort. Training days were brutal. Gladiators trained for hours under strict supervision. Wooden weapons were heavier than steel ones, forcing the body to adapt. Repetition was relentless. Mistakes were punished. The body was pushed, broken, repaired, and pushed again. Meals followed strict schedules. There was no choice, no variety, no indulgence. Eating was mechanical, a routine part of survival. Yet even in this controlled environment, moments of humanity existed. Gladiators ate together. Shared meals created bonds between men who might later fight each other in the arena. Food became one of the few stable elements in lives defined by uncertainty and fear. Some gladiators gained fame. Their names appeared in graffiti. Their images were sold on lamps, cups, and household items. Wealthy Romans even collected their sweat, believing it had cosmetic value. But fame did not change the diet. The most famous gladiators still ate barley and beans. Death was always near, but the system was designed to delay it as long as possible. Gladiators were valuable. Keeping them alive mattered. When a gladiator finally died, in combat or from illness, another replaced him. The food remained the same. This diet reveals the truth about Rome. The Roman Empire understood the human body as a resource. Gladiators were not warriors in the modern sense. They were performers, managed through calculated nutrition and controlled hardship. Their food was not luxurious, but it was precise. It sustained bodies that faced steel under the sun and entertained an empire. If you sat at a gladiator's table, you would not envy them. A bowl of barley porridge, dark bread, bean stew, weak wine, ash mixed with water. No glory, no feast, just survival. And yet, this simple food fueled some of the most famous figures in ancient history. It powered bodies that stood in the Colosseum and shaped Rome's public imagination. This was the real diet of Roman gladiators. Not a legend, not a myth, but a system.